Hello, this is Chernik. I hope you enjoy this tutorial and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel at the end of it. All right, so today we're going to cover Bezier curves. It's not as scary as it sounds. Well, it is as scary as it sounds, but it's Bezier curves are they're the mathematical curve that controls how the lines curve and move in Illustrator, and that's what the computer remembers. They're a little tricky, but once you get them down, it's like riding a bicycle. They're easy to manipulate and remember. And I use them a lot in conjunction with just doing the plain Bezier curve lines and with the shapes that we covered yesterday. What I'm going to do first is just show you what I'm working on and show you how I use the Bezier curves, and then we'll go into some practice. It just takes practice and how to handle the controls. Basically, just think of it like controls. So I'm drawing hair right now. Hold on, let me change my color. I don't expect you to follow everything I'm doing because I'm doing a demonstration, not really showing you. These here are the handles, and that controls what angle your line is going to go at. I personally, because I do a lot of this line drawing, and you specifically told me you want to do more line art like this, I like my lines to be a little more organic. So when I draw my lines of the hair like this, rather than drawing one line, I tend to draw actually both sides of the line and treat it like a shape, which is why the shapes were so important yesterday. So see, I'm just doing so I just basically use those handles to make a shape. Now it's not a perfect shape, so I can go ahead and take those handles and control it and move it and get it exactly the line weight I want. I personally like a little more organic look to my pieces because I want them to look more like drawings and less like perfect, computer renderings of things. There are people that work very mathematically. I am not one of them. So there are plenty of tutorials out there if you want to learn how to do things perfectly mathematically. I'm a little bit more organic.
I like the organic.
I like organic too. So there are, like I said, though, there are beautiful, beautiful, very, very precise illustrations out there. That's not how I work. But this is how I work. So what I did is I made a line there and it's a shape and I adjust it the way I want. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to make a stroke here. Here's my stroke. And then I'm going to use these same handles. Don't mind this black line. That's the edge of the artboard here. And I'm going to make these handles just the way I want them. And see, right now it's got the line in the middle, so it's a stroke. It's not actually a shape, but this one here is a shape. So I'm going to take this stroke, but I get it like the way I want it, expand it so now it's a shape. Use the Pathfinder tool that I taught you yesterday. Combine them. Now, I personally don't like these little sharp corners, so I go in and I add some points, and then I delete that, and then I use the handles to control exactly how my little corner looks and everything. So I do everything very manually. So that's that's what I do a lot of when I'm doing my lines and my hair and such, like that. So okay. So basically, that's our goal. That's where we're getting to. So, but right now, I sent you a file, or you could take a screen capture of it if you'd like. And I'm going to show you how to set this up. Now, there is a million of these sorts of things if you type in vector practice or vector Bezier line practice, Bezier curves practice. There's a game, there's probably a couple games, there's like a huge amount of resources online, just even on Google Images. There's all kinds. I also sent you some kindergarten worksheets that you could just, go back to kindergarten and trace your letters and trace your curves. So, you could just practice this until you're perfect at it. Like I said, it's like riding a bike. You just practice, practice, and practice. But right now I'm going to show you the basic rules of it so that you can practice. It's going to take some time to get down, but yeah. Let me know when you're ready.
I am ready.
Okay, so I want you to open up your layers palette. Make sure your layers is open under Windows. It should look like this. I'm going to just show you a little bit about layers.
Okay.
Okay, so you have layer 1 right there, which is the base layer. We're going to make a new layer, which is going to be this little icon down here. It says create new layer, or you can pop up here and you can make new layer. And you can name it if you want, if you're into naming layers. Practice, I'm going to call it. I'm very lazy at naming my layers, so you should have the bottom layer and the top layer. You can also just, rename it by double clicking on where it says layer 1 and it can be, then it'll give you a chance to change it. It's good to name your layers. I encourage this habit in everybody. If you're on the layers palette, on the bottom of yours, you should have a little piece of paper next to a trash can. It says create new layer. There's also 4 lines in the upper right of the layers palette. If you click on that, you have where you can choose new layer. Either of those are fine. I do the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, it was because my screen wasn't maximized.
Okay.
Got
So
it.
did you get a new layer made?
I do have a new layer made.
All right. Now can you see where it says you got your template one on the bottom with the picture on the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
And when you click on your picture now, you should see a little square appear on that bottom layer. A little blue square. I have blue on the bottom layer, on the layer palette. It should say template and then a little blue square. That shows what layer you're currently on. We want to make sure that this art is on the bottom template layer. And then we're going to go all the way to the left by that eyeball, and we're going to click that blank space right next to it, and that is lock. That means we can't accidentally grab that or mess it up or move it around. Now it's a locked layer.
Okay.
Okay. To turn it on and off, just when we're here, we got an eyeball. On and off, and on and off, and on and off. Blinky, blinky. We'll get more into layers too later, but just for now, we're just going to put that in the bottom layer. Click on your practice layer. I want you to double click, not on the word, but like to the right of it, so that you get a little layer option thing pops up. Set your color to something that shows up good on your screen. Sometimes you end up with like bright yellow or black or something, and it doesn't show up very well. I'm going to set mine to magenta. And that is going to be the color of your of our handles and our dots, so you need to be able to see it clearly. Sometimes if it's hard to see, you can always change it because it randomly assigns them. And sometimes, like I said, they were yellow or something. You saw me do that earlier, actually. Let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
Okay, we're going to go over here to remember our color picker. Select default, so we have black and white. And we're going to turn fill to none. So make sure you're on fill and then push the button so that it's got the little red line through it. Because we're just going to be using strokes. Strokes are basically the lines that are, you do a point, and the stroke is the line between it. Whether it's a curve or a straight line or whatever, it's got a stroke. Remember yesterday we made the shape and it had a stroke around it. That means it's not a shape, it's just a line. I'm going to zoom in on my first set of lines here. And to remind you, to move your artboard around, you can press your space bar and you'll get the little hand, or you can go over and click the hand tool. It just takes more time. The space bar, no matter what tool you're in, if you click space bar, it'll shift from that tool, like I'm in the move tool now, it'll shift to the hand tool. So it's easier for me to move around. It's just quicker because you're going to want to move close and move things around. Okay, you with me?
I'm with you.
All right, we're going to start with the pen tools. You should see the pen tools here. We're just going to cover the basics today and just practice the basics, and we'll get a little more complicated later on. You should see pen tool, add anchor point tool, delete anchor point tool, anchor point tool. You see those?
I do.
Okay, cool. Just going to click on the regular pen tool for now and just get used to that. What you're going to do is you're going to click on the top part of that line and make a point. And now we have a point with a little handly thing hanging off of it. We want to make a straight line down to here. Now it's going to follow the same rules that our objects follow. If I want it to be completely straight, I just hit shift and click it, and it's going to keep it on the same plane. So on the same axis. So because if I just do an eyeball, I might be like a little bit off, and then that's actually not straight. That's actually a little crooked when I zoom in. So for completely straight lines, click, hold down shift, and click. Okay. Now you're probably at the point when you got to the bottom and you're stuck, making like a million lines, trying to figure out how to get out of it. So what you're going to do now is you're going to hit Control and you're going to click off, and that's going to deselect it. And then you're going to do the next one. Click, Shift, click, Control, click. Click, Shift, click, Control, click. Click, Shift, click, Control, click. So basically that's deselecting your line because you can end up with a whole bunch of lines and you're tangled in a mess if you can't deselect them. Click, Shift, click. Hold down Control, deselect. Following me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do all these just to get used to deselecting. Seems really basic, but it's just, it's get the basic stuff down and you'll be fine later on.
Oh wait, you know what? I thought I had selected magenta too, but my line is showing up. My lines are showing up black.
Your lines are your points.
My lines.
Like the little point with the little arrows here, like I'm
No,
showing?
that one's showing up red, but it's doing what yours is doing, which is black.
Okay, well that's because our stroke is black right down here.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that's fine. The stroke black is fine. What you want is you want to be able to see these anchor points and the lines for the Bezier curves, because this helps guide us while we're making them. But those won't print or anything. They go away. They're just our guides. Okay, and they can be any color you want because they're not going to print or anything. They're just so that we can see where our handles are. But the actual stroke, when I deselected, see that's selected. It's going to show our guides, and then when I hit Control and click off, that's going to be our actual line. Okay. Let me know when you get to this part.
Okay.
Okay, so we got the straight line and mostly the deselecting. That was the important part of that exercise. All right, so we're going to click on the top. We're going to hold down Shift so it stays in a straight line. Click at the bottom, but rather than deselect, we're going to click over to the right and click at the top and click to the right and click to the bottom and click to the right. Oh, see, now I'm stuck. I'm stuck over at my palette. So I have to press my space bar and move my entire screen over. Hold down Shift, click at the top, top, bottom, bottom, top, top, bottom, bottom, top. Space. I have to move it over again. Move tool. Just pop along these puppies. And then when I get to the very end, I'm going to hit Control and click off so that I now have this beautiful plateaus. Don't worry if your heights are a little bit off. Later on, if you were to actually, want to make the shape in the future, I would suggest, you make basically the shape like this, and then click off, and then hit it, click it, and do that transform that I taught you yesterday, where you can just repeat it. That's how I made them originally, so that they're all going to be the same.
All right.
Again, we'll get into those little tricks and tips. Right now, we're just practicing following the little lines.
Okay.
So don't worry if they're not perfect. Okay, next one. Triangles, dude. Now, in this case, we can't hold down Shift, so you're going to have to actually use your manual skills and click like that. Again, this is just basically practice using the tool and moving your screen around. And if they're not on perfectly, that's okay.
Practice makes perfect, right?
Yep, it's just a matter of practice.
I try telling my 5-year-old that.
Just takes practice. Just keep doing it.
By the way, thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome.
You're welcome. Let me know when your mountain range is done.
It's a really long mountain range. I'm close. Oh, I thought I was close.
Of course, once you place a point, if it's totally screwed up, you can always hit undo and then do it again.
Oh, I've hit undo a couple times. I use my keyboard shortcuts.
That's okay. Yeah, keyboard shortcuts are good.
I'm not a total novice.
No, that's okay. I know
how to
it's just
fix mistakes.
It's like, yeah, yeah. That's fine. I'm starting from the basics.
Yeah, that's good for me. All right, almost done. One more peek. Got it.
All right, so now at the end, deselect it so they're not selected.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna go from our selection tool, which is that black one, to our direct selection tool. So just to remind you, when we take the selection tool and we click on this shape, we're gonna get the whole shape with all the lines. Whatever's grouped together, that's gonna be what you're gonna get. And then I'm gonna click off to deselect it. The direct selection tool will let me click just one point. When I click this one point here, because it's not quite perfect, you'll notice that that one point is now solid pink, and these other points are white. That means that just this point is selected. So I can move only that point. If I wanted these 2 points selected, I can click and drag across them with the direct selection tool. And now these 2 points are selected, like that. So if you want to select individual points, you use the direct selection tool. If you want to select the whole object, you use the selection tool, okay? So this will let you can take this and you can go back and fix any of your points that maybe are a little bit, funky.
Done.
Just remember, you just always have to click off in between. Like for instance, you're there, just click in the space, you're there, move it over, click in the space. Remembering to click off is a challenge for some people. It's just, it's not a natural behavior. It takes a little practice.
Oh, this is fancy. I love it.
So you can just go ahead and tweak them, just like I was doing with the hair earlier. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to, while we're here doing the straight lines, if you wanted to say separate this, you could use your direct selection tool, click on this line. Now, it didn't make either of my points color, I'm just selected just on the line. And I hit delete, and it's going to delete just the line. Now, if I'm selected with the select tool, it would delete the whole object. But now I have two sets here.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you now, so for instance, let's do that. Delete that line, click off. Go back to your pen tool. If you click on the very bottom of the first line, you can now reconnect those just by clicking on the 2 different points, and it reconnects them.
Okay.
And same thing with direct select tool. If you click on the point and delete it, it's going to delete that point, which will delete those 2 lines. And then I can go back to the pen, and I can click, click, and click, and then click off again. Okay, cool. So you can just delete things in the center if you wanted to get rid of it. That's like for instance, if I wanted to make a box like this, but I didn't want a whole box, I wanted to make like a U, I could just make a box, click on the top line with my direct selection tool, and then delete that one point, and now I have a U. Okay, rather than trying to line them up perfectly, because they're going to be a box, they're going to be a square, so you know they're all going to be square. You just select that one line and delete it. That's how I made these guys down here.
Okay.
So, okay, cool. Okay, so I'm going to show you actual example of something here. I want you to get a piece of paper and a pencil for me, like actual paper.
All right. Let me grab some. Be right back. Got it.
All right, so hopefully you can see my screen okay. And what I want you to do, just so that you can manually, see how this feels, you're going to make a circle, but rather, okay, like this, make a circle. Just make a circle. Doesn't matter if it's perfect, just make a circle. Okay. Okay. Now next, I want you to make a circle, but I want you to stop 9 times as you're making the circle. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or something like that, between 9 and 10 times. It just kind of stop your pencil and then keep drawing. And you'll notice that your circle, obviously, has those little points where it kind of stops and it's not as smooth and it's not as jaggedy. And it's jaggedy, it's not as natural feeling. Like when you're drawing and you want to draw like smooth hair or something, you draw a solid line. You don't draw the little points, because if you stop a lot, you're going to get this very jaggedy sort of feel to it, right?
Right.
Okay. So now do one more, but I want you to stop at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So you're basically going to go from the top to one corner, and then down, and then up, and then around. Just paying special attention. You're going to be a lot less jaggedy that way.
Okay.
You have a lot more control over it. Basically, working with the handles is the same concept. If you have too many points, and that's easy for people that aren't used to working in Illustrator, to end up with like so many points that it's all like just remember, you want to use the minimum number of points that you need to for a smooth line. The more points you use, the more kind of jaggedy it's going to look. And that's going to take a little practice to decide how many points that you need. But that's what's going to make your smooth curves, okay? This guy down here, we're going to start to get into the curves, okay? Now, this actually will only have a point here and a point here. Just 2 points. It doesn't have a point at the top. It doesn't have a point at the bottom. You'd think you'd have a point up here, but it doesn't. It only has a point at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to click here. Okay. But if you click here, you're going to end up with a mountain. So we don't want to do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to click. Oh, sorry. You're going to click and you're going to drag your handle straight up and down. I'm using shift to keep it straight up and down. And how long you drag your handle really just takes practice. And that's what you're going to be practicing. So I'm going to drag it to about there. And then I'm going to come down to here and I'm going to drag it down. Now, so you can see I didn't make my first handle long enough. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to make it longer. And I'm going to come down and do it here. Ta-da!
So that's like holding it down while you're dragging?
Yep, you're going to click. And I hold shift to keep my lines straight because I want to have these curves straight. You don't have to hold shift, but to me it makes it easier. And then you're going to click and just continue dragging in the direction you want that to go. Like when you throw a baseball and your arm is supposed to follow through in the direction that you want the baseball to go. I don't know if you've ever been taught when you throw a baseball, not to just throw it and then drop your hand. You're supposed to throw it and follow through. That's exactly what the handles are going to do. You're going to click and you're going to follow through in that direction. You're not going to follow the curve. You're just going to follow the direction, and the curve will calculate based on that. It does take practice, so don't get frustrated.
Okay, because mine does not look anything like yours.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Try again. It's fine. It's fine. This is the hard part, okay? So you're going to click and drag. I'm holding shift so that my handle is straight up and down. And that's going to indicate, basically, the longer the handle is, it's going to indicate how steep your curve is. So I'm going to do a short handle this time. And then I come over here and I click and I curve. You see how my curve is now short because I only did a short handle? Versus, oh, sorry, failing to click off. Click off. Ah, sorry. Let's try that again. Too many fingers. Okay, so we have a short handle and a long handle, and you see how it affects the curve. And now I do a long handle and a short handle, and it's going to be crooked like that again too. And I'm clicking shift and then clicking off in order to get the direct selection tool. When I'm on my pen and I click shift, you see it switches from the pen tool to the direct selection tool, which lets me click off of my points. So I'm going to do a long one and then click over here and do a long one again. Now to deselect, I hold down shift. It's going to turn to my direct selection tool, and that lets me click off. And it does take practice. And the good part is after you get it done, you can do exactly what we did before. You can go collect on these points and you can adjust your handles to get them just the way they need to be. Okay? So you can go in there and you can get these handles adjusted. So I didn't make this line by doing this perfectly all the way across. I made this line by making a circle, dragging the circle directly next to each other like this, using my direct selection tool, clicking on the bottom point of that one and the top point of this one, and then I end up with that shape. Then I lined it up, and then I basically just copied it all the way across, because that's a lot easier than trying to draw the curves. But when I'm drawing my hair, I freehand all my curves because I don't want them to look mathematical. I want them to look freeform. So click, drag your handle, hold shift if you want it to be more uniform. Or if you want it to be tilted this way or this way, you don't hold shift. And you start to kind of get these crazy shapes.
Okay, I'm just going to watch you for a little while.
No, you do this. Go ahead. You just play.
Okay, so at what point are you letting go of control?
Once I get the handle to the end of where I want it, and I can look at the bottom of the of the stroke, and I can figure out based on where the handle is how the next line is going to curve. Figure out where I want it. I let go, and then I come up to the next point, drop another point, and then drag it. When I get it to where I want it, I see the pink line. When I get it to where I want it, I let go, and then the actual line will appear. Okay, so let's go back to this guy up here and try this guy. Then you can go play a little more. So click, drag up to about here. Click, drag down. It's okay if it's not on perfectly. Click, drag up. Click, drag down. They could be like terrible and all over the place right now. It's fine because this just takes practice. You sort of learn how far you pull them in what direction to get where they're going to go. Now you can go online and there are charts with little handles that'll show you exactly how far to pull, but ultimately you're going to have to just learn it. You're just going to have to feel it out. And then go in and adjust it the way you want it.
I'm not getting curves at all.
Okay. So you have your pen tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Click with your point. Don't let go. And then drag a handle. You should see a handle like this. Do you see the handle?
It's not like a two-way handle. It's
okay. Or do you have just the regular pen tool, not any of these other ones, just the pen tool, right?
Right. Make sure. Yeah, it's just the pen tool.
You're not holding anything down.
No. Okay. So I'm just gonna click.
You click and drag up, and you should see what I have here.
Okay.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Click and drag up.
Okay.
And then when you get it where you want it, let go. And now you'll have this like wormy pink line of nothing, and like our thread line here. And you're going to use that line to figure out where your permanent line is going to go. So I go over there and I click and I drag down, and it's not set until I let go. So,
oh my gosh. Okay.
got it. Good. So when you click and you drag it around, you get it to where you want it, and you see, okay, that's about right. And as soon as it's where I want it, I'm going to let go of my mouse cursor.
Okay.
And all of a sudden now I have a line. If it's totally screwed up, you can undo it, or you can go back and fix it later. And then you just go to the next one. You click, and you have the pink line, which does not really exist, like our ghost line, I'll call it. And then you go like this.
Oh.
Yeah. See, it's just a little tricky. It's like, it's like trying to ride a bike, really. I mean, once you get your balance, you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But until you get your balance, you're like, what is going on?
All right, now I have smooth curves.
All right. Now, yes, you can go here. You can make points at all these, but notice my curves are not as smooth because I have that middle point. So see how when I do this, I end up a little bit more, I'm not as smooth because I end up with a lot more room for error. That's why I taught you to do the curves with just the 2 points, because it gives you a much smoother arc than doing many points. Like we did on paper, if I go and I just decide I'm going to do this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to follow it. And I'm going to add like 9 or 10 points all the way around. As careful as I am, here it is with all my different points on it. See how kind of jaggedy it is?
Mm-hmm.
That's because it has too many points. It's got all these points on it that like it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and it really only needs 3. And that is what's going to control your smoothness. Okay. Oh, I just totally lost my last object. Whoops. Come back, object. Okay. Practice that a few more times.
And it's okay if it's not perfect.
It's okay if it's not perfect. That's fine. You'll get better in time. You'll learn to kind of anticipate how far. Like when you're trying to throw trash into a trash can from across the room. You know exactly what angle and what vector, and your mind does all that math just from practicing, just from rote memory. Your mind does all the math of exactly how far you need to throw it, what height you need to throw it, and everything to get it in. Sometimes you get it in, sometimes you don't. But you know how to get it in, and that's not because you're doing math in your head. That's because you are doing math in your head subconsciously, and your body has figured out exactly what angle to do that at. It's the same thing here. Once you do it enough, you subconsciously know exactly how far you need to draw these curves in order to get them perfect. And like I said, there are ways of doing much more cleaner curves, like I showed you with just the circles. But if I'm doing something like hair, I want to get my curve. I want my curves to look organic. So this is just practice. And then you just move them around and move those handles.
Your spacebar trick is awesome too.
Yeah, don't live without my spacebar. So when you click with a point and you drag through that, the whole line will move like a ribbon, okay? So there, basically, this handle controls this whole entire line, both before it and after it. Let me know when you're pretty comfortable with that.
Well, I just now finished all the curves the first time through, so now I'm gonna.
Do you want to pause the recording and practice for a little while, and then we can come back to it? Or
sure.
It's up to you. It just takes a little practice. So if you want to just play with this for a little while, we can come back in like 20 minutes and then move on to the next part, because I don't want to move too fast, because then this part can get a little confusing. Well, I just play with the Bezier curves for 20 minutes or so. I'm going to pause it.
Okay.
Or 10 minutes or what. Okay, so you have a nice shape going on like this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I'm going to mess with your world a little bit here, okay? So we're going to go to one of the points, say the second point in like this, okay?
Okay.
And remember how these points are connected like this.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to break that connection. You're going to grab the bottom handle, hold down Alt. Did I say hold on? Hold down Alt, then grab the bottom handle. And now you've basically just sort of crimped the ribbon there, which will lose our smoothness, but it will let us move backwards in different angles. So we're going to click on this point, hold down Alt, and invert this up.
Cool.
Okay. So now adjust those so that they're going to pull all those handles up. So you're going to click on the point, hold down Alt, break that ribbon, and then just adjust the points to go upwards. Because you don't always want to have a smooth line going around. Sometimes you know. So you can see now that your point now has an angle to it. When you click on one of the points, you should see like two little handles like this going, and notice that they're both going in the same direction where their lines go. This goes up, this goes up. So those handles will always go in the general direction. We're going that way, we're going that way. Okay?
Okay.
Now, okay, so now go back under your pen tool here. And at the very bottom, there's an anchor point tool. That's a little, triangle like that. You are not going to be able to manually, using the direct selection tool, get this to line up if you wanted to go back to one nice smooth handle. Now you got two handles. So if you want to put it back to one smooth handle, we're going to use the the anchor point tool. Click on the point, and it's going to kind of reset our curve like that. So now all of a sudden we have two curves again. And now you can break it by hitting Alt, or you can just use the anchor point tool and click on that handle and do it manually. So if you don't want to use the keyboard, you can use that anchor point tool, click on here, and break that ribbon again. So drag all the way through to make a nice smooth line, and then to break it again, you just make sure you're on the anchor point tool, or you're holding down Alt, and that'll automatically break it. So this little carrot guy is the one that handles like cutting the ribbon or making the ribbon smooth again. All right, so you're
Okay.
smooth, you're smooth, and then we're cutting it and we're cutting it. So if you didn't want to hold down Alt and do it, you can use that tool.
Okay.
I never switched to it because honestly, I just use the key commands because it's way faster. But if you see when I'm here on the direct selection tool, if I try to like make this curve straight, it's two handles, so it's not going to be straight. So in order to try to get it back to a curve, I decided to go curvy again. You got to use that direct selection tool and just pull it through. Now it's one ribbon, and now you can break it again. Okay.
Okay. So that's the anchor point tool.
Yep. It manipulates the anchor points. We'll go back over to here. We have our layers. Let's just hide both the layers. Make a new layer on top of that. Paste this guy in. Lock that layer and make another layer over it, just like we did before.
Okay. I've got my layers 3 and 4.
Okay, cool. And you locked 3 so that you're on the next, on the layer 4.
Got it.
Make sure you have a stroke color selected, otherwise you're going to be drawing with air. But no fill color, because if you have a fill color, it's going to cover up your strokes while you're drawing. And then you'd be like, why can't I see my strokes? Because you got a fill color, okay? Especially if it's white. We're going to do the bottom one first. Same thing. We're going to go select, click, drag our handle, go up here, and we're going to drag our handle as if we're going to go make what we were making before, but we're not going to go this way because we want to go back. If I try to just go back like this way, it's going to make a big loopy thing. So I have to use my anchor point tool, which I can either manually select to, and drag the handle down, and then go back to the pen tool. But obviously that takes, you know, some time. I don't do it that way because it's not good. It doesn't make time. Or you can do the way that's much faster, which is to go ahead and do that, and then hold down Alt, drag a new handle in the direction you want it to go, and do it again. Go up in the direction the ribbon would naturally curve. Hold down Alt, reverse your handles, and go that way.
Okay.
Hold
I'm
down
going
Alt, reverse.
switch to my screen and do that.
Yeah, do that. You can do it with the anchor point tool, but it's just really too time consuming. So just do it without holding down Alt.
Okay.
So basically, click drag in the direction, click drag in the direction it would naturally go. Hold down Alt, reverse the direction. Hold down Alt, reverse the direction. Hold down Alt, reverse the direction. How's it going?
Slowly.
Just takes practice. You get to you start to figure it out, and you start to anticipate it after a while. That was fun. Thanks for watching. And be sure to hit subscribe and visit my Patreon at patreon.com/theexcaliburproject, my website at echochernik.com. Thank you for tuning in.